On May 19, 1434, Simón Vela, after removing a huge rock in the mountains of Peñafrancia, found an image of the Blessed Mother carrying on her arms the child Jesus. It was hidden together with other images and church bells to prevent them from falling into the hands of Moor Saracens who were invading the south of Spain in the 12th century. Born in France on September 4, 1384 and christened Simón by his parents Roland and Barbara, he heard a voice one night telling him to wake up. Simón Vela y no duermas Vela, eventually, was attached to his name, and to go west in Peñafrancia to look for an image of the glorious Virgin Mary. When miracles of healing happened immediately after the finding of the image, people started coming over to pay homage and pray to the Blessed Mother, whom people began to address as the Lady of Peñafrancia. Simón built a chapel to house the image. Then later on, with the blessing of King Juan II of Spain and Pope Martin V, a bigger church with a convent was built on the plains at the top of the mountain of Peñafrancia that was given to the Dominicans for supervision and care. On July 3, 1952, the image was solemnly crowned. Today, the Lady is enshrined at the Santuario de Nuestra Señora de la Peñafrancia, located at the highest peak of Sierra de Francia in El Cabaco, Salamanca, Spain. Around the year 1710, Reverend Fray Miguel Robles de Covarrubias, upon the petition of the Cimarrones, built a chapel, and from Estampida he always had with him, had a replica of the Lady of Peñafrancia carved from wood, then enshrined her at the said chapel. Immediately, people came to visit, most especially during the Saturday novena and Mass at the chapel. After a while, Fray Miguel returned to Manila, but when his left eye became totally blind, he pledged to the Lady that he will return to Nueva Caceres and build the stone church he promised her. After returning to Naga, he initiated the building of the stone church. In 1741, it was not known if Fray Miguel was still alive or already dead by then. Under Most Reverend Isidro de Arevalo, D.D., the stone church was erected. A native of San Martín del Castaner, where Peñafrancia is located, Fray Miguel, who then was studying at the University of Santo Tomás, honored the invitation of the Bishop of Nueva Caceres, Most Reverend Andrés González, O.P., D.D., to come to Nueva Caceres, Naga, where later on he was ordained and became parish priest of the cathedral and vicar general of the diocese, a recipient himself of many miracles of healing through his devotion to the Lady of Peñafrancia. While he was in Manila, he has pledged to Our Lady that he will build her a stone church near the Pasig River. The pledge was fulfilled, not in Manila, but in Naga, when Most Reverend Francisco Gainza, O.P., D.D. arrived in Naga in 1863 to take possession of the see of Nueva Caceres. Foremost among his priorities was the spread of the devotion. In the dedication of the book he himself authored, he wrote that even before he set foot on the streets of the city, he has helped in the spread of the devotion by facilitating the imprimatur of the novena to Our Lady. After seeing the sad state of the church and upon learning that the image is temporarily housed at the cathedral, he sought the renovation of the church to be the permanent home of the Lady. Through a decree he issued on September 1, 1864, Bishop Gainza institutionalized the Traslación procession on the Friday before the Feast of the Holy Name of Mary, where the image is brought to the cathedral through a procession for the 9-day solemn novena. Then on the afternoon of the 9th day, Saturday, the image is brought back through the Traslación por el Río, now known as the Fluvial Procession, to her sanctuary for the celebration of Principal Feast Day on the next day, Sunday. In 1895, the Holy Father Leo XIII, acting on the petition of the clergy and faithful of the Diocese of Nueva Caceres led by Most Reverend Arsenio del Campo, D.D. coursed through the Sacred Congregation of Rites, issued a rescript fixing the feast day of Our Lady of Peñafrancia on the first Sunday of July and declaring the same as the principal patron of the city of Nueva Caceres, dated June 4 and 10 respectively on the same year. But in 1905, the Holy Father Pius X, through a rescript dated April 8 of the same year, granted the wishes of the faithful of Nueva Caceres led by Most Reverend Jorge I. Barlin, DD that the solemnity of Our Lady of Peñafrancia be permanently assigned to the Sunday after the octave of the Nativity of the same Blessed Virgin. This transfer of the Peñafrancia festivities from July to September is the tradition that remains today. In Spain, the celebration of the feast of the Nuestra Señora de la Peña de Francia is fixed on September 8 as contained in the Santoral Romano Catolico traditional. Thus, to determine the annual day of the solemnity of Our Lady of Peñafrancia in Bicol, the point of departure is still the Nativity of Mary on September 8. The solemnity is celebrated on the Sunday after the octave of the Nativity of Mary, that is, the Sunday after September 15. The Traslación, which marks the start of the Novenary, is held on the afternoon of the Friday 10 days before and the fluvial procession on the Saturday, the eve of the solemnity. On September 20, 1924, the image was canonically crowned as Queen and Patroness of Bicolandia by the Apostolic Delegate Most Reverend Guglielmo Pini, DD at the cathedral grounds where the quadricentennial arch now stands. It was the American Bishop of Nueva Caceres, Most Reverend John Bernard McGinley, DD, with the help of the Asociación de Peña de Francia, now, the Our Lady of Peñafrancia Association, ALPA, who petitioned the Holy Father Benedict XV for the canonical coronation. Having fulfilled the two requirements of antiquity and miracles, a decree was issued by the chapter of St. Peter's Basilica that favorably approved the petition on May 13, 1920, albeit, the coronation happened 4 years later, with Bishop McGinley already assigned in California, Most Reverend Francisco Reyes, DD, as diocesan administrator, spearheaded the celebrations. Part of the preparations for the coronation was the contest for Best Musical Composition. The winning piece Himno a la Nuestra Señora de Peñafrancia with the familiar first words Resuin Vibrant composed by the Spanish priest Reverend For Maximo Jagura, CM, became the anthem of the coronation and thereon, of every annual fiesta. The Bicol translation of the hymn was done by Most Reverend Tia Timo Passes, CM, DD with the help of Bicolano priests, Reverend Fathers, Jesus Esplana and Sal Saez. In the year 1960, the first Archbishop of Caceres, Most Reverend Pedro P. Santos, DD, dreamt of building a new and bigger church to be a basilica and permanent sanctuary of the Lady of Peñafrancia in Bicol, but he died in 1965 and so the task was assumed by his successor, Most Reverend Tia Pisto V. Alberto, DD. Meanwhile, on October 30, 1973, the shrine was created into a parish with the auxiliary bishop of Caceres, Most Reverend Concordio Sart, DD as the first parish priest. Archbishop Alberto commissioned Bishop Sart to commence the project of building the basilica. In 1976, on a lot donated by the spouses Macario and Irene Mariano, the groundbreaking and laying of cornerstone was held, but in 1977, Bishop Sart was appointed to the Diocese of Sorsogon. Most Reverend Sofio G. Balls, DD succeeded him as parish priest and supervised the construction of the new church. August 17, 1981 marked a fateful day in the history of the devotion in Bicol, as the original image of Ina was stolen. Bicolans awakened to this shocking news filled with disbelief. Unthinkable, but it was true. Reverend For Juan Celso, parochial vicar, confirmed the sad news and further related that the manto used by Ina at that time was found in one of the empty tombs of the cemetery behind the old shrine. Saddened but not disheartened, work continued. Through the laborious and extensive efforts of the devotees led by Bishop Balls, the construction of the new bigger church was completed, and on the 22nd of May, 1982, His Eminence Jaime Cardinal Sin, Archbishop of Manila, with His Eminence Julio Cardinal Rosales, Archbishop of Cebu, presided over the solemn blessing and dedication, respectively, of the new Church of Our Lady of Peñafrancia, but not as a basilica, just yet. More than a year after the image was stolen, on September 5, 1982, Monsignor Florencio Elena, a former rector of the old shrine, received a box containing an image in pieces said to be of Ina. Bishop Balls with For Celso rushed to Manila to authenticate and confirm the genuineness of the image. 3 days later, on September 8, the glorious announcement was made on the return of the image. In the evening of the same day, the caravan from Manila arrived at the cathedral, jubilantly welcomed by throngs of devotees even amidst the onslaught of Typhoon Ruping. When Most Reverend Leonardo Z. Legaspi, O.P. D.D. took possession of the Archdiocese of Caceres in 1984, he immediately manifested his devotion and concern to the Lady of Peñafrancia when he petitioned Rome that the new church be declared a basilica. The following year, on the third anniversary of the dedication on May 22, 1985, the Holy Father John Paul II granted the privileges of a minor basilica to the church dedicated to Our Lady. The elevation ceremonies happened on September 22, 1985, presided over by the Apostolic Nuncio, Most Reverend Bruno Torpigliani, D.D. Much later on, the basilica was granted the privileges and title of a national shrine. Archbishop Legaspi appointed Monsignor Juan Butimpo to the basilica to help Bishop Balls. With this triumvirate, a huge building was constructed at the back of the church that houses the Altershim, home for retired priests, Daughters of Mary, DM Convent, and the Catechetical Center, now the Lay Formation Institute. 1999 ushered a new milestone for the devotion, the 75th Jubilee anniversary of the coronation of Our Lady of Peñafrancia. Reforms were made to prevent abuses like what happened in the 1996 translation when the manto of Ina was stripped off the image. The Confraternity of St. Joseph was organized for the formation of voyadors that will ensure the solemnity of the Traslacion and fluvial procession. The Apostolic Nuncio to the Philippines, Most Reverend Antonio Franco, D.D. presided over the Pontifical Mass at the Quiricentennial Arch of the Naga Metropolitan Cathedral, and reenacted the coronation done by the Apostolic Delegate Piani in 1924. Archbishop Legaspi also led the consecration of the Bicol Region to Our Lady of Peñafrancia. At the Basilica, the Diamond Pavilion was constructed under the rectorship of Monsignor Alberto Nero, HP, as a monument marking the Jubilee. 2010 ushered in a new era in the history of the devotion.